only thing we have to fear is beer itself.
Beer. So many choices.
Only no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters, where we're going to bring you the news and reviews of some wonderful brews. My name is Dan Baker, as always joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner,
and our fermenter-tainer,
Wayne Baker.
Now, today is a very exciting episode that I was very happy that we were able to do. We are once again on location, but it's not a brewery, it's not somebody's home recording studio. We are on location at a wonderful hop farm, and we have with us two very accommodating people at the end of the table. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves.
Kaelin Mast.
And Justin Mast.
We can't thank you enough for having us out here. I love the space that you guys have.
So glad you came.
And somewhere around here we have Wit floating around too. A dog. And what is the breed of Wit?
He's a fancy mutt.
Fancy mutt.
Fancy mutt.
Yeah, and I should probably mention the name of the place that we were at. We were at French Creek Organics, which is in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, or I guess, what was it, St. Peter's?
St. Peter's, PA.
But you were saying earlier that's just really a post office, more or less?
Wow.
That they consider it, at least.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, the property, for lack of a better term, is just beautiful. I can't imagine a more serene place to have this kind of setup.
Large
and we
tracts of land.
For our listeners, we are sitting in the barn facing the hops.
Yeah, they're right over there. I can see them.
Yeah,
It's so beautiful and so relaxing.
Wave at them.
Oh, they're a short hop away.
Rich is over there too, but whatever. There's hops over there.
It is a beautiful sight.
It really is.
Yeah. Now, I should mention, too, that as we're starting to do more and more, we do have a sipping beer this episode. Steph, what are we sipping?
Yes, this beer, it comes from us from the Lost Abbey in San Marcos, California. This is Saint's Devotion Ale. Oh, there's Wit. He's back under the table with his ball. Love it. Oh, and the reason I chose this beer, this is part of the Rare Beer Club. It's one of the exclusive beer made by the Lost Abbey for the Rare Beer Club. But the label has pictures of a hop farm and monks in their truck and on their ladder up picking the hops. So I was sort of inspired by our location today for this beer.
They make it look so easy.
So picture perfect on the painting. But this sour ale, of course, it has lots of hops and it's brewed with Brett. And I know that Dan loves that.
Oh, totally.
But something you notice right off the bat is the bitter, frothy head. And you'll get aromatics of tropical flavors and lime leaves, and the presence of the yeast almost adds a vanilla or almond aroma as you smell it. And then they describe it as an energetic beer. It's very vibrant, billowing with CO2, and a firm bitterness, giving pepper and a touch of spicy hops. Snappy, toasty malt core just brings it all together. It's quite delicious and a great way to start our homage to hops in this episode.
I'm curious, Dan, what do you think of this one?
I really must be warming up to Brett because I like this a lot.
When I think a lot of the beers, the Brett and sour type beers we've had lately haven't been too intense on that side, and so I think you're discovering the lighter side of Brett.
The lighter side of Brett. I feel like
It's
that
still
could be...
there, though.
It's still there.
It's still there.
Definitely still there.
Yeah,
yes.
but I don't mind this at all. In fact, I rather like it.
Yeah, this is very good.
It's delicious. Are you going to ask your question, Wayne?
Oh, hey, Wayne. What's the ABV?
What's the ABV on this one?
6.66%.
I see what they did.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't have.
And technically, it's a Belgian blonde ale brewed with Brett.
Nice.
Very
Interesting. Cool. Well, we'll be sure to be out of that pretty shortly. So, in the interest of time, let's get to some news. And you know what? I think I'm going to start calling this yesterday's news because we seem to average about 2 weeks from recording to release. So here's what happened when we were recording the episode that you might have heard by the time you're hearing this.
A bit of a lag.
Yeah. Well, there's an infographic that's going around, and Wayne, I'm going to make sure we get this to you to put on the website.
I'm going to write it down.
Yes, I'm going to write it down as well. Wayne Pick. It is the price of beer around the world. And I just saw this go up on the interwebs today. It starts off with where are the cheapest places to get beers. Well, you have the Ukraine, where they're averaging apparently 59 cents, which I thought was just absurd.
Wow.
And then
Is that for like a pint or a bottle?
0.5 liter bottle of domestic beer based on Numbeo.com crowdsourced
So a half
data.
liter.
A half liter.
Half
for
liter,
how
so
much? 60? What is it?
59 American cents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where is this? I'm sorry.
Ukraine.
And what money do they use there?
I don't know, but it equals 59 American cents.
Okay.
And then you have Vietnam at also 59 American cents, 68 cents in Cambodia, 70 cents in Saudi Arabia, Czech Republic at 71, and it goes up through there. And then the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the most expensive places in the world to buy beer. The most expensive in the world overall is Iran, apparently, at $7.71
Wow.
for a half liter.
Is alcohol like legal in Iran? Isn't that like,
Apparently it is.
Whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe that's why people don't drink that much.
Yeah, I was going to say if it was like an illicit black market commodity, then it would be expensive.
Yeah. The next up is Kuwait at $7.09, United Arab Emirates at $6.20, Papua New Guinea at $5.14, Singapore at $4.72, and actually the U.S. is not listed on there, so we are neither the cheapest nor most expensive.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. We are happily average. And then this is what I liked. The number of beer bottles consumed per person on average in the year 2012. Number one, anybody have a guess? Wayne, I can see you kind of looking at this.
I can't see it.
Okay.
I'm going to say Czech Republic.
Germany. No.
Any guesses
US.
in the table?
I would have said Germany.
Germany and...
I have no idea.
Belgium.
Well, Wayne actually had it right. Czech Republic.
Oh, no way.
419 bottles.
You know where I
per
learned
person.
that?
The
On a
internet.
podcast called Beer Busters.
Did we go over that before?
Yes.
Sorry.
We clearly don't
In
listen.
2012, though?
No, but I think the information we had at the time was from 2012. So.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Hotshot, who's the second highest then? Because apparently I don't remember what we talked. No looking.
Australia.
Yeah, Australia at 304.
I did cheat on that one.
Germany is number 3 in the world at 299 bottles of beer on the wall. Estonia is number 4
Ooh,
at
we're number
288.
14?
Yes, America is number 14 at 217 bottles per person. The next category they have on this infographic is who spends the most on beer. So countries in the world that per person per capita will spend the most per beer. The U.S. sits at $356.20 per person per year.
Wait, that's not a lot.
Steph spends
That's like
that
a
much in
couple
a weekend.
months, right?
For the
That's like a trip
average
to Vermont.
person-
Yeah, that's
For the average person, that is a fair amount of money. I've been lucky enough to have a homebrewing cousin for a while that gives me free beer, and a podcast that gives us free beer as well.
That's right.
Thankfully,
So-
I don't live in Iran.
Yeah, anyway.
for many reasons, not the least of which is the cost of beer.
Yes.
And none of us are average.
Very true, yeah. You have Canada at $351.89, Venezuela at $444.60, the UK at $393.19, Ireland at $688.10.
Wow.
Denmark at $262, Germany at $235, Australia at $747, and then New Zealand at $452. And the countries that spend the least, you have back to Ukraine at $72.69 a person, Bosnia at $99.86, Bulgaria $119.81, Hungary at $138.32, Mexico $141.36, South Africa $147, and then where to drink the best-selling beer brands. So, if we had to get... I was going to ask a question. Now you're looking at the infographic.
No, this means you picked a good article because I'm really interested and I want to look at this.
Finally, I pick a good one that more people care about. Okay, so you have out of the U.S., Bud Light is the best-selling brand internationally for us at 37 million barrels. In the world, though, it looks like Snow out of China, Snow beer out of China, at 75 million barrels produced.
Wow.
Yeah.
Snow beer.
I wonder, is that available in the U.S.?
We can find that out.
Our
at some point.
fact-checking is going to be limited since we're in a barn.
Well, you've got your fancy 4G.
No, I have 1X here.
Okay.
I was still able to text you, though.
Yes, that was helpful for me to figure out exactly where to get here. You have Corona at 32 million barrels. You have Heineken, which is just listed as international instead of out of a particular country, at 29 million barrels. Coors Light also at 25 million.
Is Heineken, maybe it's brewed in multiple countries?
Probably, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, because they also separate this. They have Bud Light and then Budweiser as international. Budweiser was 40 million barrels, whereas Bud Light was 37 million
And
barrels.
Snow was 75 million?
75
Almost
million
twice
barrels.
as much as Bud Light.
Yeah.
That actually makes me feel good about the world.
Wow.
But but have you ever had snow?
No.
You don't know if it's any good.
No? You never know. There were two other articles that I saw that were worth passing along. Probably not as interesting as the first one, if I'm going to be completely honest. No. One will have a tie to beerbusterspodcast.com pretty shortly. Sierra Nevada Brewing Company is sending a flavorful request instead of a formal one. Today, shipping to distributors a West Coast double IPA in a 24-ounce bottle that invites beer drinkers to attend beer camp across America. An unprecedented 7-city traveling beer festival, Beer Camp Across America, will feature more than 700 total breweries. Each brewery will pour their best beers at the festival closest to them. The West Coast double IPA includes a message that calls drinkers to the bounty of beer that will be at each tour stop. So.
I can't think of a cooler invitation to a big beer party than
really.
a bottle of beer.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It kicks off in the hometown of Sierra Nevada. It is Chico, California on July 19th. You have in the Southwest, you have Embarcadero, North San Diego. On the 20th, you have Friday, July 25th, Rocky Mountain Edition in Denver, Colorado. Sunday, July 27th, the Midwest Edition at Navy Pier in Chicago. Friday, August 1st, New England Edition, which is going to be in Portland, Maine. Saturday, August 2nd, the Mid-Atlantic Edition at Penn Treaty Park in Philadelphia. And then it wraps up August 3rd, which is a Sunday, in the Southeast Edition going in Mills River, North Carolina. There will be a huge selection of great beers in every city we visit this summer, and we thought beer lovers would appreciate a glimpse of fun to come with our own hopped-up invitation, said Ken Grossman, founder of Sierra Nevada. This is an IPA that's West Coast in style, which is fitting since the whole pilgrimage kicks off here in California in just a few weeks. So there will be a tie into that at beerbusterspodcast.com relatively shortly. I'm going to assume it's going to be after August 2nd because our esteemed reporter is going to the Philadelphia edition.
That is correct.
Yes. Now, would anybody like to... Are we going to keep this a secret, or are we going to say who the guy is?
Yeah, actually, we've been in touch with a guy named John Gillespie, who is actually currently doing research to write a really awesome book about the beer scene in Southeast PA, centered around Reading, and then just sort of spreading out to other areas. And we've been talking back and forth with him about helping him with this project. And he offered to write some articles for our website. And the first one he's going to do is on the beer camp, because he will be attending the Philadelphia branch.
And we've had a chance to read a short excerpt from the book, and I'm really excited about it. It's very well written and entertaining.
When I responded to his email after I had read it, I was like, wow, this is really great. I was like, to be honest, it actually made me a little misty-eyed.
I'll be completely honest, I didn't get to read it yet.
It's really good.
But I'm looking forward to reading it, and then if it's as good as you two say, and I'm sure I will like it, I'm excited to have him on, have him write for us, and read the finished project.
Yeah, and he will definitely be coming up as a guest on the podcast in the next couple episodes, for sure.
So that should be exciting. So beerbusterspodcast.com for the details on that. And now, to round out the news, there was one other article that I really like because it involves a lot of creativity, and it made me chuckle. The article starts off, creativity is key, especially in graphic design. Wayne is perking up as I say that. That's why one graphic designer in Canada... You can relax again. Sought to separate himself from other recent graduates by printing his resume on a pack of beer.
A pack of beer?
I saw
it was
that.
a 6-pack of beer.
I saw that on the news today.
It was really cool, and I have pictures of this that I'll send to you so we can accompany it with the episode too. So where I wrote down Wayne Pick is now going to be Wayne Picks. Brennan Gleason of British Columbia was finishing his studies at University of the Fraser Valley early this year when he was given an assignment, create a work of self-promotion. Since Gleason would be graduating in a few months, he wanted to make the most of the project, and he decided to create a non-traditional resume that would give potential employers an idea of who he is and what he enjoys in life, like brewing beer. At the end of our program, everyone is obviously looking for jobs in the industry, so I used that to my advantage, the web and graphic designer told the Huffington Post. I sent about 3 of them out to places I knew I really wanted to get a job and ended up getting a few offers right away. To create his resume... Gleason spent about 7 weeks brewing a blonde beer, and during the process he created labels for each bottle, which featured a snippet from his portfolio and an accompanying QR code, and designed a concise version of his resume for the box. And after he sent out the unique resume to several design firms in Vancouver and received a few offers back, he decided to accept a job at Tectone as the digital marketing agency's creative director. And while Gleason admits that using a pack of homebrew beer as a resume would likely not work in other industries, he doesn't think the alcohol alone was what got him hired. I think it's mostly just because it's different from a traditional resume, Gleason told the HuffPost. As designers, we're always trying to show off our creativity, and that's the first impression these companies see. In Gleason's case, his first impression was pretty smooth. News out. But the
Does anybody know if the beer was any
Drop
good?
the mic.
I hope so.
I would hope so. I mean, if he's this creative with this, I would imagine he knows what he's doing with some other things. But yeah, that's kind
You
of
think
cool.
I can put my driver's license on a 6-pack of beer or other important official documents?
Yeah, right. There you go.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, they told us in college in our senior seminar that we were supposed to make your resume stand out a little bit, and there was a girl who paper-clipped a dollar bill to her cover letter to make sure that it actually got attention. It was, time is money, whereas I saw it as bribing somebody to read your stuff.
With a dollar.
With a dollar. But hey, a dollar can get you a couple minutes on 10-10-3-2-1 in 1998. But yeah, I think this is fairly creative. So yeah, pictures will be up on beerbusterspodcast.com if I remember to send them to Wayne.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, as we mentioned earlier, we are on location at French Creek Organics, right outside of Pottstown, or technically in Pottstown, depending on who you ask. And we have Justin and Kaelin with us. So, how long have you guys been growing hops?
Well, commercially, this is our second year.
Okay.
But we've had, how many years in the backyard?
Yeah, just for personal use, I don't know, 6 years or somewhere in there.
Wow, okay. So what spawned the desire to do a commercial hop farm?
Well, we had the opportunity to move on to Kaelin's family's farm, and we're both pretty passionate about beer and sustainable agriculture, so it just kind of seemed pretty natural to give it a go.
Yeah.
We had the land to do something, and
Why not grow hops?
Yeah.
I can't think of much better.
So you guys were both homebrewers? Are both homebrewers?
more Justin.
More
I just kind of tagged
kind
along.
of the lackey, yeah.
Back when we used to have time to brew beer,
Exactly.
Yeah, but,
I've been slacking lately. But
Do you guys plan on commercially brewing if you get the time for it? Now that you have the commercial hop farm?
Not really.
yeah, not in the foreseeable future.
Okay.
No. Just stick with the hops.
Yeah.
So you grow everything organically here using organic processes, but you're not actually yet certified organic. You're still waiting on that certification.
Yeah, well, we'll be certified as soon as the inspector comes out.
Oh, so that's all you're
we're
waiting
just
for.
we're
You've
just waiting for the
met
inspector.
all the criteria.
Yep,
Okay.
the paperwork's in. We've paid our dues and just waiting for the guy to put the check mark next to our name.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. That's great. That's wonderful.
So what is involved in being an organic hop farm?
A lot of paperwork and
Yeah.
a lot of very rigorous practices, very strict record keeping, very strict what you can and cannot use chemically.
So
and
pesticides, fungicides, that sort of
I
thing.
feel
you don't-
pretty confident now that paying a premium for something that's certified organic, that it is organic.
and it's worth paying a premium.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's very
Yeah.
thorough, from noting where your root stock came from to all the amendments that you're using in the soil. It's very thorough and very rigorous.
And also, a thing to note is if you see something that says it's organic or can be used on organic farms, don't trust it.
Oh, really?
Really? Why not?
Because not always. Like, things could be approved last year, but they're no longer approved this year. So you have
Oh,
to
'cause
you have
it's
to
sort
do
of
a lot of
standards change.
research.
So you have to get certified organic every year then?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh. Oh, that's
Yep.
tedious.
Yeah, it's very thorough, and being a consumer, if you are paying a premium for that, I do feel better, having been through the process, that you can feel confident that it is,
Right.
And
And then that certification, so if you are not certified organic, you can't put the word organic on a product.
Well, you can't say you're certified. You could say, I guess you could
You
say
could call something
you're
organic,
growing organically,
But you could say
you're
certified.
not. Exactly.
What I was wondering is that the name even of like the farm or the business as French Creek Organics, if you would get in trouble for saying that if you didn't have the
I really don't know.
certification.
I don't know.
yeah, I can't
guess
answer
it's
that
kind of
with
a
any
fuzzy area.
certainty,
Yeah.
But
But
we're not going to find out. We're have
Right.
gone through, done the paperwork and have our application submitted and have kept the paper
And
trail.
we're
and
pretty dedicated to, that cause.
Right. You're right. Meeting all those.
So how do you fertilize the farm and have pest control? I mean, how do you deal with all of that since you can't just go out and spray like a lot of farmers do?
Most of it by hand,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
We walk through the hop yard on a very, daily, sometimes multiple times a day, and, visually inspect it. And when you see something you have to do, clean it out by hand, or there are approved products that like I said, you have to do your research on, but there's things, and Justin knows more about, because he does a lot of the spraying, the beneficial bacteria and such.
Yeah, and we do fertilize primarily through the irrigation. It's called fertigation. It's a much more controlled way to get the nutrients to the plant, where each plant actually has an emitter that emits the water, and we can actually put the fertilizer through the irrigation system and get it right to the base of each plant. And that's done pretty well for us so far, and yeah, we'll continue to do that.
That's cool. Now, Kaelin, you mentioned like beneficial bacteria and stuff like that. So, do you? There are. I don't know anything about this, but are there like bacteria and things that you can actually introduce that are completely natural that will, provide pest control or will provide fertilization?
Well, basically, more of it is to create a healthier, stronger plant.
Right.
So, having beneficial bacteria, which we put through the fertigation and foliar spray as well. If a plant is stronger, it's more able to fend off, diseases, pests, things like that.
Right.
Have you had any problems with mildew or pests here with the hops?
Yeah, this year, every hop grower will tell you that the mildews will be an issue at some point, and this was the first year that we saw some downy mildew in the yard, and we've gone to great lengths to remediate it and keep it from spreading.
All mostly by hand.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of time.
Wow.
And not only did you have to deal with pests this year, but we've had some interesting weather here.
Yeah,
lately.
Yeah, we had a slight glimpse of the apocalypse recently in our area.
I'm glad I didn't get to see that. It didn't happen where I was.
You were down in Philly.
Yeah.
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah, we had an insane hailstorm, about a little over a month ago?
Yeah, the end of May.
So insane that our listeners who are not in our area may have actually seen it on the news.
Yeah, and I know I saw things on Facebook from people's cars being destroyed to people who need, we were saying new roofs on their home. I saw
cars,
the
property.
Berkshire Mall needed a new pane window on their
the
ceiling
came through
because
the
it just
skylight.
shattered through it. It looked like you said, like the apocalypse.
Yeah, absolute wrath of God.
Yeah. So even though we didn't get hit as hard as, say, Reading, but yeah, it was pretty devastating to the hop yard. It certainly put a hurting on the plants.
Yeah. Well, I know there were areas in West Reading and Wyomissing where the trees afterwards looked like winter. All the leaves were gone, just shredded off, and I can only imagine what that would do to crops.
It kind of looked like a blender came through here.
Yeah.
That's
So,
a shame.
and furthermore, like the hop plant, it grows from the
vine?
No, the tip. The
top.
tip of the very top of the vine.
Crown.
That's where all the growth stems from. So when that tip is broken off, which the hail broke many, 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 many tips off, the hop plant doesn't grow any further. So they were only at mid-growth when the hailstorm came through.
No.
So a lot of them are, 6-7 feet tall, and they're not getting any taller.
Yeah.
Well, how tall would the average one get?
Well, as we were walking out there, you saw our poles are 18 feet tall, and some of them are a good already, 6 feet beyond that, just hanging over trying to grab onto something else.
I never realized it would get that tall, and I didn't know until today that it grew from that tip.
Yeah, a good mature hop plant can grow upwards of 30 feet or more.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they
it
can
will
grow about a foot a day. And
Yeah, you can practically
and
watch
early
them
June.
grow. Yeah.
And they'll grow
phenomenal.
vertically as far as you have something there for them to cling onto, and then they'll just kind of spread horizontally or however.
As long as you have something to what?
Find something
For
to
them
grab onto.
Cling onto.
Cling on.
Yeah.
Cling on.
Kachum.
There you go. We can't make it one episode without a Star Trek reference.
Nope.
Oh, God.
Oh, which, by the way, in John Gillespie's original communication with us, he got in touch with her contact form on the website. He said, I really appreciate all the Star Trek references. And I was like, I'm glad someone does.
Yeah.
I certainly don't.
Of course not.
Yeah, we
Just
know.
don't get it.
Yeah.
Star Trek in the barn.
So I know, Justin, the first time that we met you, we made the Armstrong Ales connection because I know that you guys know Steve, and Steve actually brewed a beer with your hops last year. Is that correct?
It was really good.
Yep. A lot of his beers are.
Yes.
We had him on twice now, and I don't think he brought a bad beer.
They're delicious. So what kind of beer was it that he brewed using your hops?
It was a fresh hopped pale ale, and it was exceptional. I just love the flavor that fresh hops lend to a beer, and kind of it's hard to quantify, but like the mouthfeel, almost like it makes them kind of like pillowy, I think, and I love the grassy nature of fresh hops.
So I like the grassy. I almost think of it as like the smell of fresh rain when you're out in like the woods. Like some of them have that sort of quality to it.
I agree, and you know, they're most of the time when you use a fresh hop in a beer, it's late addition, and I think that that kind of brings out a lot of the qualities in the hop that are lost through the drying process or boiling, and I love fresh hopped beers.
Now, can you tell our listeners the 7 varieties of hops that you're currently growing here?
Right now we have Willamette, Cascade, and Centennial, and Nugget, Newport, Zeus, and Chinook. They're all first year. The Chinook plants are this year. So
Except for 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Or maybe 10.
But we won't have a huge marketable yield of Chinook this year.
Are you marketing mainly to commercial brewers, or do you sell to home brewers also? Who can get your hops?
First come, first serve.
Whoever wants them.
Is the best way for anybody to get a hold of you just through the website?
Yeah. Yes. The website has all our contact information on it.
So forgive us, it needs a lot of work right now, but but yeah, it has our contact info, and you can call us, email us, anything, and we'll get back to you.
And that website is FrenchCreekOrganics.com.
Beat me to the punch.
Thank you.
And of course, it
Simple
will
and
be
easy.
linked on BeerBustersPodcast.com, of course.
Of course. You don't have to remind me of that one because that goes without saying.
Yeah, well, just in case. I'm going to write down next to Wayne Picks. No, I'm not writing it down. Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, we can't thank you enough for having us out here. And it's a beautiful place that you guys have.
Well, thanks for coming.
We appreciate you coming. I mean, I kind of I like that you guys are here and kind of bridge the gap and kind of show where our beer comes from. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's kind of a cool thing. I think that
It is.
firsthand we can see from the field to the pint
the
glass
pint.
how it comes.
From the field to the glass.
Yes, and I actually recently had my first foray into homebrewing myself. I brewed a beer with Steph that will be entering into a contest very soon. And even that process, just seeing, because I love beer and I love drinking craft beer and have for a long time, but to actually get your hands into it. And then this is almost taking another step back and walking through the fields of hops, if you will. It's just,
and there's
it's
nothing
really cool.
more rewarding, and I think you guys can probably agree with me, that brewing a beer that includes ingredients that you grew yourself.
Yeah.
Like I love in September when I make that, I always make one big IPA, and I put a crap load of my fresh Cascade hops in there, and I just love it. And I use my own habaneros. I always do a Cascade habanero IPA in September, and it's my favorite beer to drink. It's my favorite beer to brew, and it's because I grew a lot of those ingredients. And if I can only get a wheat field in my a grain field in my backyard.
We did a raspberry jalapeno saison, and unfortunately, you do grow jalapenos. Unfortunately, you didn't have.
But we had one
yield.
on the plant.
But we did have one ceremonial homegrown jalapeno in that beer.
The rest of them were from the grocery store, but that's all right. I bought them in Lancaster, though, so I felt like they were.
They're local.
Somebody grew them.
Yeah.
Somebody grew them somewhere.
What about ghost chilies? Did you have any of those?
I did not. I could not find a ghost chili plant this year. I'm still on the hunt. But I have 7 varieties of peppers, so we'll see which wins out. Probably habaneros are my favorite.
You really need to do a 7 pepper beer.
Well, my ghost
With
chili
each
beer
one.
last year had, I think, 5 varieties of peppers in it. So.
And I mean, I don't like spicy beers, as many of our listeners know, but I think that would be an awesome idea.
I'll do a 7 pepper beer.
7 pepper beer.
You should measure the heat of it. See if we can figure out how to measure in Scovilles. We'll look
Or
at that.
metric.
Or metric, or Martian, or any of that
Or
stuff.
metric tons.
Yes.
I was the first one this time.
Oh, man. Well, now that we've gotten to know a little bit more about our guests, why don't we drink another beer? We're going to go a little bit out of order again.
Why don't we?
Yeah.
So Justin was kind enough to bring some lovely hopped beers from his own personal collection. So Justin, why don't you just pick one from the cooler?
Why don't we start with Harvest Ale, a fresh hop beer?
Awesome.
Sounds good. Yeah, so since at French Creek Organics, they don't actually, you guys don't brew beer, you just grow the hops, we've decided to go with a bunch of commercial beers that just feature hops.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully in the
theme
future
today.
there will be some commercially available beers with French
Absolutely.
Creek Organic hops in them.
I can't wait. There's a lot of breweries now that are very passionate about using ingredients that are grown locally in their beers. And I know Saucony Creek, they talked about growing their own squash, and it'd be really cool to see some local Pennsylvania
Sorry.
breweries using some local hops.
Could we just say that Justin almost skipped pouring a beer for his own wife?
Yeah, that's what happens when you're married too long.
How long have you guys been married?
It's actually only 3 years, but
Okay.
I guess you get comfortable real quick.
Yeah.
I love the smell of this one.
Yeah, New Zealand, they have it's a complete different hop breeding program than the United States hop breeding program. Their varieties are totally different than the ones that are grown here commercially in the U.S.
Now, I know in the northern hemisphere there is what they call the hop belt, which is sort of straddles what is it, the 48th parallel latitude north.
Between 30 and 52.
There you go.
I will educate you on that.
Yes, that will
later.
be coming up a little later in Know Your Beers. But I assume it makes sense there would be a corresponding belt in the southern hemisphere as well.
I guess so, and yeah.
New Zealand.
Because I know New Zealand and Australia, there's a lot of hops coming out of there. So
Yep, just the opposite time of year.
right, exactly.
So
yeah.
luckily we're able to get 2 harvest ales a year.
Yeah, and I actually did a little research on this beer because Justin did share that we were going to get to drink this one. And the hops in this beer do come straight from New Zealand, and this beer has been available since May. And it says that the Southern Hemisphere features fresh New Zealand hops that are picked, dried, and shipped to their brewery within 7 days.
Ooh.
Which I think is quite impressive. You'll get flavors and aromas of Southern Cross, Pacifica, and Matueka hops. And Southern Hemisphere is part of their 5-bottle Harvest series, which features single hop, fresh hop, wet hop, and wild hop beers.
Wonder how much it costs to get a ton of hops
In 7 days from
from
New Zealand.
Shipped from New Zealand?
From New
To
Zealand to
California.
California. Yeah, that's got to be insane. This is your beer, so I'm sure you would know. What is the price of
I got
like a bottle?
I got a case of it, and it was surprisingly reasonable.
Really?
I think it was like $45
Oh, wow.
for a case.
It's not bad at all. I suppose they don't pass those shipping costs on to the consumer. That's nice.
And it's 6.7%.
Thank you, Steph.
Yeah, that's what we're focused on this year is selling them fresh. We intend to harvest and have them to the brewery within several hours.
Yeah, it's very important because hops once picked start to decompose very quickly. So the shortest time you can get it to the brewer, the better it is.
Absolutely. And that's why September and October are such great months here in the U.S.
where
to
you
drink beers because
all the
that's when
harvest ales.
happens. Harvest ales are great.
Well, yeah, so now that we have this in our glasses to hold this over a little bit more, Wayne, I understand you, while taunting wit, have a new game.
I do.
Oh,
I'm so excited.
do.
Please enlighten us as to what it is.
And I have an awesome introduction to go with it. Welcome to another iteration of the celebration of information, stimulation, and libation education that is Happy Fun Time Games. Today, we celebrate one of the fundamental ingredients of beer, the mighty Humulus lupulus. Since hops are just tops, Pops will trot out a hot new spot that's top-notch and play Hopscotch. Yay. This is quite simply a multiple-choice questions about hops. I know many episodes back, maybe within like the first 5, I had mentioned about wanting to one day do a game called Hopscotch. And what better opportunity than right here on Hop Farm today. So we're going to begin to my left.
I swear you planned it this way every time we're on location somewhere.
And if I forget, Steph, remind me.
Oh, Dan, why don't you sit here? Yeah, I'm picking next time.
So you start off answering this question. We'll go through everybody, give your answers. We'll alternate who goes first as we go along. And your question, starting off the game, which nation produces the most hops? Is it the U.S.? Is it Germany? Is it Great Britain? Or is it China?
The answer I would have gone with was not one of the choices. Oh, God. U.S.
All right, Dan is saying the U.S. Steph, what do you think?
Germany.
Steph is saying Germany. Kaelin,
that one makes
what's
sense.
your
I
guess?
have to go with Germany, too.
Have to go with Germany as well. And Justin, you're going to agree with your wife?
China.
Oh, he's going to buck the trend and go with China. Well, Steph and Kaelin, the ladies at the table, are correct. It comes.
And U.S. is second, Dan, so you weren't too far off.
It comes as no surprise that Germany, the country that codified hops as a fundamental ingredient of beer, leads the world in hop production. But currently, we here in the U.S. are right behind the United States, being the second largest hop-producing nation. Filling out the top three is anyone. Can anyone guess what the third? Behind Germany?
No, not Czech Republic.
And the United States? Not the Czech Republic? Anyone?
England.
Bonus point, maybe?
I would say New Zealand.
No.
I was going to go with New Zealand for number one.
Wrongy.
Wait.
Wrongington.
No.
You already guessed. Kaelin, do you have a
Czech-
guess? Pick a country. Any country. Out of a hat.
Austria.
Austria. No, it's actually China. China
Oh,
is the third largest hop-producing nation. The UK, as of 2010, was a bit further down the list at number 8, behind the Czech Republic, Poland, Slovenia, and oddly, North Korea.
Do I get a bonus point if I can tell you the largest region in Germany for hops, or is that another question?
It's not, so I wouldn't know if
The
you're correct.
Hallertau region.
Oh, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, it is the
Is the number one region.
Hallertau.
And they name their hops after the regions
Right.
as well. But Yakima Valley would be second, the second largest
Yakima
region.
Valley,
Which
right.
North
is
Korea
Pacific.
grows more hops than New Zealand.
North Korea grows
That's
more
frightening.
hops than Albania, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom.
Wow.
Apparently, yes. They also export more childish threats to destroy other countries than those nations as well.
Over a movie.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I would love a North Korean harvest ale.
North Korea harvest ale. I can only imagine. Dear leader IPA. Moving along to Steph is going to go first on this one, and your question here is similarly: which U.S. state produces the most hops?
Washington.
Is it Washington? Is it Oregon? Is it Idaho? Or is it California? Steph says it is Washington. Kaelin?
Well, she knows better than me, but I'll just pick a different one.
I
I'll
don't
say
know.
Oregon.
It could be Oregon.
All right,
I
Kaelin's going
think
to
it's
say
Washington.
B, Oregon. Justin, what do you think?
I would say Oregon.
Oregon as well. And Dan, what's your guess on that one?
I'm going to go Washington. I'm going with Steph's gut.
You're good. Good idea, because
Good
you
thinking.
and
Okay, good.
Steph are
I was a little worried
correct.
once he said Oregon. I was like, oh crap, it could be Oregon.
Yeah, Washington produces the most hops of any U.S. state, actually by quite a wide margin. In 2013, the state produced nearly 55 million pounds. The second most hoppy state, which is Oregon, produced 8.5 million pounds. So that's quite a gap.
Wow.
Idaho and California sit at third and fourth. The total value of hops produced in the entire U.S. in 2013 was nearly $250 million.
Wow. Wow.
35,000 acres harvested with an average yield of 2,000 pounds per acre at a price of $3.59 per pound. $250 million in hops in 2013 in the United States.
That's amazing.
And we're moving along to Kaelin, who's going to go first on this one. And this question here is, which of the following is not one of the 3 C's of popular American hops? Is it Cascade, Centennial, Citra, or Columbus? Not one of the 3 C's.
Citra?
Citra, she's going to say C, Citra. All right, Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll do the same thing.
Agree. Okay, Citra. Dan, what do you think?
Can you expand on that question? I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
There are 3 American hops which are commonly referred to as the 3 C's of the most popular American hops. One of these is not one of them.
Okay. Can you run through them again for me?
Cascade, Centennial, Citra, Columbus.
I am going to go with Citra as well.
Okay, Citra as well. And
Oh.
Steph,
It's
who
either-
actually did some homework for this game.
No, I studied because I've been so embarrassed by how terrible I've been doing at this game. So I studied when he told me it was about hops. I wanted to say Columbus.
Columbus, is that your final answer?
That's a very American word, though.
Is that your final answer?
But
That's
then
why
she
I
said
didn't pick it.
Citra, and I'm like, oh.
See, before
I know.
you...
I know. I'm just going to say Columbus because that was my
You're just
gut.
going to say Columbus? And you were the only one who got that question wrong because the answer is C, Citra. These three varieties, Cascade, Centennial, and Columbus, are grown predominantly in the Pacific Northwest and have only been around since the early 1950s. The popularity of the three Cs has been a major contributor to the distinctive flavors of American craft beers, particularly American Pale Ales and IPAs, and has helped give rise not only to American craft brewing, but also the worldwide recognition that the U.S. is a legitimate producer of quality beers with its own unique characteristics. Citra is also an American-made variety, but is a bit younger. It was released in 2007. It's a special aroma hop that was developed and is trademarked by the Hop Breeding Company, not one of the three Cs. Citra. Moving on to our fourth and final question. Justin will go first on this one, and this is a little folksy. For what purpose, outside of brewing, do farmers in Appalachia use hops? Is it as a fever reducer, a pain reliever, an aphrodisiac, or a sleep aid?
I would say a sleep aid.
You're going to say a sleep aid. Dan, what
Judging
do you think?
from how well I sleep after we've been in the hop yard.
Hop yard, okay.
12 hours.
From experience, okay. Yeah, what do you think?
I'm going to go aphrodisiac.
You're going to go see aphrodisiac. Steph, what do you think?
I'm also going to go sleep aid. I've actually seen
Crap.
people sell hop pillows.
Okay,
So
Steph is
that's
going to
why I'm
say
saying that.
D, sleep aid. And Kaelin, what do you think?
Well, I definitely agree with the sleep aid, but I want to say all of the above.
You want to say all of the above, which is an interesting question, not one of the options, and it is wrong.
Hey, you never know.
That is worth a shot. The answer is, in fact, D, as a sleep aid. For many generations, members of rural communities, particularly in the Appalachian Mountains, would stuff a pillow with hops as a sleep aid. To this day, many farming families continue to cultivate a vine or two of hops for this purpose. Hops are also touted as a natural alternative to pharmaceutical sleep aids and are sometimes found as an ingredient in herbal sleeping pills.
I hope that they change the hops nightly, though, because they really started to get cheesy after a while. That would keep me up, I think.
I think it would. It would probably give you nightmares.
Hops are the cure-all.
They are the cure-all. That's true. It all depends on what you do with them, whether you turn them into beer or sleep on them. So I'm adding up the points real quick to see who our big winner is. And our big winner this time is, in fact, Steph.
Yay!
With 3 points. 3 points.
Studying helped.
Studying
See,
did
your games
indeed
need to be
help.
centered around a topic so I can
So
study.
you know what to look up beforehand. Well, congratulations to Steph. Everyone else, Dan, Kaelin, and Justin, have an even 2 points. So everybody
Yay!
did fairly well. So that's our Hopscotch, our debut. I do have a couple of interesting facts I'd like to shoot out there before we
Did you know?
leave Happy Fun Time Games. Did you know? Does anyone know what IBUs actually are?
International bitterness units.
Right, which obviously the bittering agent in beer is hops, and that's what our theme today. But what does that number actually specifically mean?
How bitter your beer is.
Technically. An IBU is defined as 1 part per million of the chemical isohumulone, the alpha acid in hops that contributes to its bitter flavor. So whatever the IBUs is the parts per million of the alpha acids. 750 IBUs, which is something that has come up on the podcast recently, is not actually that far outside the realm of possibility. Flying monkey alpha fornication, which is a name that is a good contender for libation or fabrication, tips the scales at a whopping 2,500 IBUs.
And you can use that name because we won't remember.
Yeah, there are several that sit over 1,000 IBUs and many more that hit well over 100. So as a parts per million of the alpha acid and hops, getting up there into the thousands really isn't that ridiculous.
My question, okay, so it can be that high, but where is the threshold? Where can we perceive it?
Well,
Like how high?
that's a little less, obviously, cut and dry, black
I know
and white.
we talked
but
about this on the show before.
that there is a sort of clipping where
There's
you
gotta
just
be a
don't.
cutoff where-
Right. But as a chemical measurement, ridiculously high IBUs are not hard to produce.
So we got to run your 7 pepper beer through the Scoville meter and
the
IBU
IBUs. And there are EBUs
meter.
which are calculated a little bit differently. I think they mean the same thing, but the way they ascertain the number is different.
Is it a European bitterness unit?
Yes, it is. It's the European Union's version. Did you know that hops are one of the plant species, along with soybeans, legumes, flax seeds, and many other, that contain phytoestrogens, plant-derived non-steroidal compounds that mimic the human sex hormone estrogen? So you're when you drink beer, you're getting a little dose of sort of estrogen cousin chemical,
but in a real manly, good way.
in a very, very manly, good way.
That's what I thought.
And our final hoppy fact: hop resins are insoluble in water. It takes the application of heat during the brewing process to isomerize, change the chemical structure of alpha acids, so the flavors can dissolve into the wort, which is part of the reason why you boil. So there you go. Science indeed.
Yes. Well, I'm in the mood for a little bit more education.
Does that mean beer?
Well,
No. Know your beers?
Does that mean
Oh, Dan.
beer?
Oh, I love it. So I'm going to invite Kaelin and Justin to sort of jump in as I do my Know Your Beer segment, because you sort of are the experts at the table here. We're going to talk about...
Don't count on that.
You won the game.
I know, yes, but I had to study. So we're going to talk about first brewing with fresh hops for our listeners, and then we're going to talk about growing your own hops. So I know those are two things, Justin, that you are very good at. So let's start by talking about brewing with fresh hops. Sometimes called fresh hop, wet hop, or harvest beers, the advantage of using whole hops are they float, and they are easy to strain from wort, and they offer the best aroma character. If fresh, they're good form for dry hopping as well. Now, the disadvantages, of course, they soak up wort, resulting in some wort loss after the boil, and the bulk makes them harder to weigh. Fresh hops must be used within a matter of days, preferably one day after they are picked. Fresh hops are sent to brewers immediately after harvesting and stem and leaf removal. Fresh hops provide more fresh aroma and flavors. It's a distinctly different hop aroma, often described as grassy, refreshing, or resiny. Fresh hops can be used in every part of the brewing process, though, as Justin mentioned earlier, typically later in the process. Brewing with fresh hops requires careful planning, since they must be shipped quickly in cold temperatures and used right away to avoid spoilage. In 1996, Sierra Nevada began making the most influential commercial wet hop beer in the U.S., currently called Northern Hemisphere Harvest Ale and Southern Hemisphere Harvest Ale. The first time Steve Dressler brewed a wet hop beer at Sierra Nevada, he added 5 to 6 times the weight in wet hops that he would have used if he was using dry hops. But soon he increased that to 7 or 8 times the dry weight. A typical homebrew recipe will use about 5 times the weight of dry hops normally used. Wet hops contain 80% water, while dry cones have about 10%. Wet hops will give a bright, fresh hop taste and aroma. And a homebrew recipe for the Northern Hemisphere Harvest Ale can be found in Stan Hieronymus's book, For the Love of Hops, for anyone that's interested in trying that recipe on their own. So I know, Justin, you've mentioned that you've obviously homebrewed with your own hops previously, not currently. At what point in the process do you usually add the hops, or what's sort of your process using fresh hops when brewing?
Last year we did a harvest ale with dried hops. From our own hop yard, we dried them and used them for bittering as well as flavor, and then added a couple of late additions at 5, 1 minute, and at flame out. And I had the brilliant idea of dry hopping with fresh hops.
Bad idea.
That's one that
Very bad idea.
Yeah, that one got a little sideways on us. And, while I was doing it, I could see, there was, literally came straight from the hop yard, and I put them right in the carboy. We, use carboys for home brewing. And, I was like, this might be a bad idea. There was a couple bugs on them, and indeed, it ended up being a bad idea. So
became a seriously wild ale, too wild to drink.
Yeah.
Now, I have dry hops with fresh hops, but I did dry them first on window screens before I dry hopped with them. But my biggest deal was I lost a lot of wort. It really soaked up a lot And what started as like 6.5 gallons of beer ended up to be about 3.5 gallons after everything was cleaned out.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, maybe I probably should have dried them, even in the dehydrator at a low temperature. But yeah, that's one that I won't try again. I'll just at least make sure they get pasteurized at flame out or whatever. But
now, despite the difficulties that may come around, there is nothing more exciting than adding your own hops to your own beer. So I have from Stan Hieronymus' book, For the Love of Hops, 10 easy, perhaps, steps to grow your own hops. So feel free to chime in at any point, guys, if you have any further information or advice. So the first thing you should do is ask yourself, are you in the right area? As I mentioned earlier, hops grow best between latitudes 30 degrees and 52 degrees, though some say between 35 and 55, and require 15 hours of daylight, usually about 8 hours of direct sunlight. They require 120 days without frost during the growing season and 6 to 8 weeks of dormant time with the temperature below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. USDA plant hardiness zones of 6 or 7 is ideal, but they can be grown on a small scale outside of these zones as well. As we mentioned before, the Pacific Northwest is the ideal region for hop growing. In the U.S., Yakima Valley in Washington State is the leading hop production area in the U.S., followed by Oregon and Idaho. So once you've determined if you're in the right area, the next step is to buy rhizomes. Check with your local homebrew store or vendor online and see which varieties grow best in your area. Of course, you should always grow hop varieties that you like to brew with as well.
Yeah, definitely. A couple points. Actually, the Northeast, actually right here, New York more, was in the 1800s. This was where hops were grown.
Yeah.
All of them. They were grown here.
I read that while researching for the game today.
Yeah.
I did read that was originally like the big hop
Yeah,
area.
this was sorry. This was where all the hops came from, and then the inundation with things such as downy mildew mainly, it just kicked them out, and they found the Pacific Northwest where it was much easier to control the climate. Well, the climate was very easy, so you could irrigate, and it's what they call
it's an alpine
desert. So you just irrigate and you can add everything you want, and you don't have to worry about getting too wet, too dry, or humidity.
Yeah, but for your listeners in our area, it's a great area to grow hops.
Yeah, hops, around here, they'll grow. You put them in the ground, they'll grow. If you want them to grow well, you have to, spend a little more attention to them. But yeah, they're pretty vigorous growers.
And like we said, they can grow upwards of a foot a day in May and June before they burr. So they got to have a trellis of some sort of structure for them to grow up on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that goes perfectly into step 3 here is once you have your rhizomes to pick your spot. Stan recommends a south-facing wall on a 2-story building with 6 to 8 hours of sunlight, or if you can't plant them facing south, you can plant them facing west as well, so they can warm up in the morning and soak up all the afternoon and evening sun. As we talked about, hops grow on vines or climbing vines that adhere to their substrate without tendrils, so a strong wire about 18 feet high for the hops to climb on is ideal. And as we mentioned earlier, a mature hop rhizome can grow upwards of 30 feet. So you can use a single pole with running strings to the top, or perhaps a trellis system. The string needs to be able to hold about 20 pounds because the plants get quite heavy once they are fully grown. So once you find your spot, you need to prepare your soil. Hops prefer mildly acidic soil with a pH between 6 and 7.5, and it should be loose and drain well. So you probably should have a little bit of knowledge about the stages of growth if you're going to grow your own hops as well. First, there's dormancy, then spring regrowth, vegetative growth, reproductive growth, formation of cones, and preparation for dormancy. You kind of should know what's going on as the plant is growing. As the hops regrow each year, you will trim them and follow the same regimen as a commercial grower would. So now you're ready to plant your rhizome. The sprouts should be facing up and the roots down. You want to build a mound about a foot high to help with drainage and space the rhizomes about 3 feet apart. And that looks like it's about how far apart yours are as well.
They're 3 feet, yeah. For the like varieties, if you have multiple varieties, you would want to space them at least 5 feet apart. So if they will grow together up at the top if they're 3 feet apart. So it'll be harder to.
And at the bottom,
Yeah.
the roots go crazy. It's like a spider web.
So if you have multiple varieties, I would suggest spacing them a little further apart so you can tell which hops are which.
Right.
A little bit easier.
Yeah, I guess if they're growing close enough too, you could even create your own variety of hop if they. Will they combine?
Well, they won't, because only the female plants produce the cones, and they would have to be
Right, you
fertilized
would
by
have
the male.
to,
Right.
which you do not want a male plant.
You
Yeah.
won't,
If you want hops, you don't want a male
and
plant.
you're not going to get hot girl on girl action, unfortunately.
No. Although some become hermaphrodites if
Oh,
they're
there you go.
stressed. Yes.
Interesting.
But they'll go back to being female when they're healthy
Eventually.
again.
But only
They
the
learned that lesson.
hop breeding guru scientists would have male plants in trying to generate a new variety or strain of hop.
Right.
But also with the rhizomes, if you can't tell which side's up and down, you can plant them sideways, and they'll still grow.
Good advice. So as they start to grow, you want to train 2 or 3 binds around the string. They will wrap clockwise and follow the sun. A 16-foot pair of vines will yield about 2 pounds or more harvest when they are mature. And you want to consider adding nutrients like nitrogen or calcium at this time. Now, I don't add any nutrients to my hops at all, and I find that they grow just fine. But again, I'm just growing on a small scale as a home brewer for myself. Do you add any nutrients to your plants here?
Definitely, they like a lot of nitrogen, but more than that, they need a lot of water. A lot of water,
Yeah.
more than you would ever imagine.
Hops like about an inch and a half of rain a week, so that's a pretty substantial amount of water. So if anybody has any intention of growing hops, they got to make sure a water source is relatively readily accessible, because they do want water.
Yeah, and you want to water, monitor, and repeat as our next step. The roots will want to be wet, and especially in the springtime, but not waterlogged. You'll want to trim the bottom of the plant and pull any weeds and monitor for diseases and pests. Finally, the exciting time comes when you get to pick and dry your hops. You might not get a whole lot of hops the first year or two, but they're ready to pick when they can come off easily and spring back when compressed. A hop flower that's ready to harvest will make a sound like paper crinkling when it's squeezed. Try to pick the hops without cutting down the bind, since the plant is in the process of preparing for dormancy. Leaving the binds hanging will increase yield for the next year. Hops can be dried in a food dehydrator or on window screens. Do you cut your binds down when you harvest them? I cheat and I cut them down. It's a lot easier to cut it down and lay it in the backyard.
Right. Well, we harvested by hand while they were up on the bind last year. This year we'll probably have to cut them down because it's much harder to get 18 feet up to hand pick them. But obviously it's much better if you could pick them all by hand that way, because yes, you get a better yield the next year. It increases the crown size. But this year we'll probably be cutting the whole binds and from then out.
And if you do cut the bind down, after you cut the bind down, that growth that's still left at the base of the crown, just let that grow, and that will continue to photosynthesize and make the crown stronger for the next season.
It's good advice. And that's what you want to do next, is prepare for the next year by cutting down the last green matter at the first frost. Prune the binds to a few inches and cover with mulch. Hops grow like weeds underground, so it's important to keep them under control. So if any of our listeners out there have their own hops growing in their backyard, feel free to send us some pictures at info@beerbusters.com. Info@beerbusterspodcast.com. I caught myself.
We do not own beerbusters.com, though we could for $800.
beerbusterspodcast.com, and we'll shoot your pictures up on our website.
Yeah, and if you have any questions regarding growing hops, we'd love to answer them. You can find our info at FrenchCreekOrganics.com.
Which, of course, will be linked on beerbusterspodcast.com.
Yay, internet!
Well, now that we've been educated, beer-educated a little bit more.
Beer me! Beer me! Beer me! Beer me!
All right, so what is left on the docket?
Justin.
Oh,
That's your cue.
why don't we drink the Stone Enjoy By?
Oh, yay, yay.
7.4.
I have to say, I have recently had this beer for the first time. iteration of this series. Thanks to my brother, who was kind enough to buy me a bomber bottle of this for my birthday.
You are quite welcome.
The rest of us, however, have not had it yet.
Yeah.
So I am super excited.
As am I.
I did share it with Tom, one of our other cousins.
And hopefully someday we'll be drinking a commercially brewed beer with hops from French Creek Organics.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Hopefully
So
someday in the near future.
As he's pouring, I'll give a little info about this beer. Stone and Joy by 7414 is a 9.4% double IPA. This one was bottled on May 30th of 2014, and it's devastatingly fresh double IPA. And they say freshness is a key component in many of their beers, but especially those big citrusy floral IPAs. And they have taken it further with this line of beers, much further. They specifically brew this not to last, and they've gone to such extensive lengths to ensure that you're getting this beer in your hands in an extraordinary short window. They've made so much sure that it is clearly on the bottle in the name of the beer. So they say that there is no better time than right now to enjoy this IPA.
Now, Wayne, since you've already had this, you don't get any.
Oh, okay.
It smells so amazing.
And the directions are right on the bottle. They couldn't make it any simpler.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
really like that aspect of it.
It's a very interesting series and a very good idea. And I think when we talked about this series in a news segment a little while ago, one of the things I said that it's really nice because not only is it a way to ensure that you're getting really fresh, good hoppy beer, but it also kind of educates people, because I don't think a lot of people realize that what types of beers you want to drink fresh and what types of beers will age well. And I think this kind of answers that question. Like this, when you taste this, this is the type of beer. This, like Heady Topper and your other big citrusy IPAs, especially, are beers you want to drink.
It is
as fresh as
really remarkable how vastly different a beer will be a month, 2 months out after it's been brewed. A beer with this type of aroma and the hop qualities, it changes so much.
Mm-hmm.
This is so good.
It really is. This is what Stone does best, really.
Yeah.
I think, and this is a perfect example. And this is the only one of their Enjoy By series that I think I've ever actually tried.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
Is
this
that
is the
right?
first time. Yeah, that I've had one. Yeah.
I've had quite a few of them, and each one is a little bit different, but they're all. I've never had one that wasn't amazing.
Do they follow the same recipe, or do they change it up each time? Is it?
It must be slightly different.
It's got to be. Yeah.
So this version comes across to me as very juicy, very piney, and lots of grapefruit. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, a lot of grapefruit character in this one.
It's good.
Period.
Yep, juicy, hoppy, delightful, excellent, delicious.
And it's a heavy one because the ABV is, Steph.
9.4%.
Yes, it is.
We're getting to that point in the show.
Here we are. Okay. So what do we have on tap next?
We have an offering from Shawnee Craft, the Double Pale Ale, which is actually 100% organic.
Ooh.
Nice.
And boasts a fine wallop of hops. That
They
craft
also grow
beer
their own
lovers
hops.
Have come to expect.
I don't know
Looking
if
forward to it.
we
You shouldn't do the announcing, honey.
I didn't realize he was reading from the bottom.
Let's drink
I
it.
interrupted him.
I don't think we had this one when we were up there, did we?
We were recently at Shawnee Craft, recorded on location up there, and this is a beer we did not try while we were up there, even though we tried many.
We had a lot.
many of their beers that evening.
And I was upset I did not get a steak.
Yeah, well, we'll get back.
I hope so.
It's a reason to go back.
I was supposed to go back on my birthday, but I went to King of Prussia instead.
That's bottle conditioned, so I was trying to pour gently.
I had this on November 30th, 2013 at the brewery.
I want to go golfing on their course.
Oh, it smells nice.
Oh yeah, beer.
We've canoed right past it. It's beautiful up there.
Yeah,
It is
was
really nice up
really
there.
great. Ooh, this does smell really good.
They do, was it a canoeing and beer?
They do an event where
Event?
you canoe down the river, you get to the brewery, you hop out of your canoe, and you drink some beer, basically.
That's
Which is
cool.
A pretty cool event, yeah.
That's
it's a
the
great
best
place.
way to canoe.
Exactly.
Drunk.
Absolutely. So we mentioned that they also grow their own hops up there, and I assume this beer contains some of them.
I would imagine. Ooh,
Ooh.
ooh. That's really good.
That is delightful.
It is. It's got a sort of a mango-ish, almost like
Tropical,
tangerine tropical fruit.
For me, it tastes like it borders on sour.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It does. It has
Definitely.
a tartness.
It's very effervescent.
Right,
It's
very
really
effervescent. The bottle conditioning really comes out of it. I believe it comes complete with some floaty bits.
Well, it's bottle conditioned.
Absolutely. And
You got all the floaty bits.
I got all the floaty bits. I love floaty
Wayne
bits.
loves floaty bits.
It's his favorite part.
But yeah, it does have it has a strong tropical fruit, maybe even a touch of pineapple.
I love that
In
it's
there?
organic too.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys up there are great. Yeah, they're of the same ilk, all about sustainability and being environmentally conscious in what
Local
they do.
ingredients.
Local ingredients and that sort of thing.
Yeah, out of all the acres that you were talking about that were grown domestically in the U.S. of hops, I wonder how many are organically grown.
That is a very good question.
Tiny
yeah.
little fraction.
I'm
of that.
sure it's
A
not
very
much.
small percentage of that.
Though I would imagine that percentage is probably growing because it is becoming more. People are appreciating it more. I think.
Yeah.
Definitely, in the last few years too, I think it's grown exponentially
And
from like
actually, just
a couple hundred to a couple thousand. I
just
think.
this year, it was legislated that hops used in organic beers have to be organic now. Prior to that, if an ingredient comprised less than 3% of the finished product, it wouldn't have to be organic.
Right.
But now all hops
So you
in
can't say this beer is
can
organic if the hops
if the
aren't
hops are not organic.
as
So
well. Yeah.
that's great for us.
Yeah.
But it makes sense if you're marketing a beer as being organic. You
Yeah.
should have organic hops.
Absolutely, and I think that's the sort of thing where it's great to have these regulations to say you can't call this product something that it isn't.
Exactly.
You know, we have all the old cliche of spelling light, L-I-T-E, because it's not actually light and that sort of thing.
Or
And-
the word natural.
yeah, or natural, exactly.
Right.
Do not. The word natural is
All
not
natural.
in any way regulated, so it means absolutely nothing. But the fact that the word organic is in fact regulated means a lot, especially now in the realm like craft beer or even like food and a lot where people are becoming a lot more conscious of where what they're eating and drinking is coming from. And I think it's great that there is the force of law behind it.
Yeah, and agriculture can be a kind of a dirty business. I mean, when you get right down into it, I mean, commercial. Not saying anything bad about commercial hop growers, but they're utilizing practices that include herbicides and desiccants that burn the leaves off of plants, and we fundamentally are trying to do it a more sustainable and safer approach, and it's more work. It's hard. It is, but we feel it's worth it, and we try.
Now, do you think with something like hops, growing them in a sustainable and organic fashion, do you think that noticeably actually affects, say, the flavor of the beers they're using, or do you think it's just a way of being a more conscious way of producing the product? Because I know a lot of organic food, if you can kind of tell a difference, you can taste a difference, you
Right.
can feel a
Yeah.
difference. Do you think that carries through with hops?
I would say so, yes. And in addition to that, the Cascade hops that are grown in, say, New York State or here in Pennsylvania taste different than Cascade hops that are grown in Oregon or Washington.
Drastically different.
Their
Right.
terroir, it's just almost tastes like a completely different hop. So the Northeast hops are definitely different than the Pacific Northwest hops.
And
There's
it
no
would
doubt about
it would stand to reason that if there's that much of a difference between the soil and the climate, that avoiding herbicides and pesticides and the way in which you grow them would
Yeah,
affect.
definitely.
Yeah,
and you
agreed.
can feel that much better about drinking beer made with organic hops.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And not only organic, but also local. I
Definitely,
think
yeah.
that's huge. And
Yeah.
we like to, especially on the podcast, we like to support as many local breweries as we can. And it's so neat that we're sitting here at a Pennsylvania hop farm drinking a Pennsylvania beer, though maybe not brewed with your hops, but it's just a neat concept. Like I know Dogfish Head did the DNA beer with all the Delaware ingredients, and I know that there's a lot of other breweries that are trying to do that. And I think that's important to not only support local beers and breweries, but local agriculture as well.
Yeah, the local movement is awesome, and it's something that is a great thing.
Yeah, and like we were saying, I mean, to get hops from New Zealand to Chico, California within a week, I mean,
it's a big footprint.
That's a carbon footprint. I mean,
absolutely.
if we'd like to think it would be a really cool thing that if some local breweries were to include our hops in their beers, that we could have it from the hop yard to the brewery within an hour.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we have enough breweries in our general vicinity that's completely doable.
Doesn't really get much more fresh than that.
Yeah, that's taking fresh hopping to a whole nother level.
Yeah, and why not? Because I mean, that's really the whole reason why so many of the foods and things that we eat on the other end after they've been harvested still come into contact with so many preservatives and that sort of thing, because everybody's shipping everything from one side of the world to the other. Whereas if you can go down the street, why not go down the street?
Yeah, not to mention the cost of getting 400 pounds of Cascade hops overnighted from Oregon to Pennsylvania, say. I mean,
yeah,
that costs a lot of money.
It does cost a lot of money. Yeah.
What's the last one?
There's one more.
There's one more.
I like organic Pennsylvania beer.
Organic Pennsylvania beer.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
OPB.
Who's down with OPB?
OPB, yeah.
Who's going to brew the first OPB?
That's a good question. Well,
yeah, we're trying. We're trying to motivate some brewers.
yeah.
Has anybody had this?
No, we were talking about that before we started recording. That was almost one of my news articles for this episode. So, Justin, if you wouldn't mind telling us what we have down there.
We have a Victory Moving Parts, the ever-evolving IPA. Batch number 01.
Which is fairly new. That's their newest IPA to their lineup.
It's the first of the lineup, too. The 01.
So what's so this is going to be a series of beers. I have no idea. I'm asking you. I don't know what.
You would think if they were
A brewery.
marketed as a batch number,
Yes.
Hold
it
on.
wouldn't stay one forever.
So back in March, Victory had announced that they are doing this new summer lineup of beers, Moving Parts IPA and Summer Selections Variety 12-pack, as well as, the Wild Devil is coming back as well. So Moving Parts is going to be available in 22-ounce bottles and on draft, and it's an IPA series that's celebrating natural, simple, delicious, and fundamental ingredients in beer. With a new batch number released every 4 months, Victory's brewmasters will tweak different ingredients within the same recipe to create an endless array of possible flavor profiles. So for the first in the series, MPO1, Victory blended whole flower hops from US, UK, and Germany with German malts, and the result is a well-balanced IPA featuring citrus and piney notes, and it comes in at 7.1%. And they say that it is extremely drinkable.
There you go, Wayne. You don't have to ask the ABV now.
Wow. I feel overloaded with information. I do really like series of beers. I like the idea of taking one idea and sort of coming up with different iterations of it. And I also really like Victory beer. So I expect that this is going to be...
You have high expectations.
Going to be delicious.
I'm pro Victory as well.
Yeah, I love Victory. I never had a beer from Victory I didn't like. Although I did once have their swing session saison after having... I can't remember what I had right before it, but it just didn't flow. Like, it wasn't the right beer to follow that
I've
beer
been
with.
on a steady diet of Dirt Wolf so far this
Oh, really?
Oh,
summer.
Dirt Wolf.
Dirt Wolf is good.
I don't think I've ever had Dirt Wolf.
What?
Oh, my.
What?
Yeah, I know.
It's so good. And how is this?
I haven't tried it yet, but
This is
wonderful.
in fact incredibly drinkable. Like you said, this goes down really easy.
Yep.
It's not overly bitter. It's got a nice hop flavor without an intense bitterness.
Oh.
It's kind of dry.
It is kind of dry,
Yeah,
and
it's
it
very
almost has a lager feel.
Definitely.
Yeah, it almost has a lager feel.
It doesn't have a lot of the sweetness you get out of other IPAs then.
Right? Yeah, it doesn't
Which I
have
get out of
that.
that too.
That's that sort of.
That is a summer IPA right
It's
there.
nice. It's more like on the floral spectrum for me.
We should be pitching some horseshoes right now.
Absolutely. This would be perfect.
Floating on the pond.
Floating on the pond, sitting around the campfire.
Picking some hops.
Oh, there you go.
This is an excellent hop picking
hop beer.
Hop picking beer.
This would numb your skin because hops are very picky.
Oh my goodness!
Look at her.
Oh,
arms.
this is me. I look great right now.
That's what whenever I go out to prune, I always have
great.
huge.
Oh, wow.
I look like I had poison ivy, with and bear claws.
I noticed those scrapes on your arm earlier, and I just thought, oh, they probably have a cat or something.
No, that's my wild hops. Yeah, they're kind of it's like stinging nettles.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But it's worth the effort.
They don't hurt too bad until you take a shower, and you get in the shower, and you're like, it hurts. But you heal quickly.
Thank you so much for sharing your collection of beers with us.
Yeah.
I felt weird not having to plan all the beers for the episode. That was totally awesome.
Well,
and they were all amazing beers.
It was a pleasure, and if you guys would love to come back in August, we can send you with a care package of hops.
I would love that.
Yes,
and
definitely.
We can brew. Now, Wayne and I have brewed together, but we want the three of us to brew together. So maybe our finally our Beer Busters collaboration
will be brewed with French Creek organic hops. That would be great.
We would love
that's a deal.
All right. I like the sound of that.
Yes.
Ooh.
It's a date.
It is a date.
So should we do favorites?
Should we do favorites?
Oh, good Lord.
For me, it was the Stone and Joy By. I mean, it has everything that I love about an IPA. And right now, I am digging the West Coast IPA, the grapefruit, the juiciness, I love it. I always love that beer and look forward to when it's out. And I mean, all of the beers today I loved, but the Stone and Joy By was the standout for me.
I'm going to actually say that my favorite was the Lost Abbey.
Oh, it was delicious.
Yeah, I liked all of the beers are really good, and all the beers featured hops very well. But I thought the Lost Abbey was the most unique, I guess I'll say, in that it had the tart sour character to it, but still held up as a summery beer, perfect for a day like today. Sitting where
you
we're
wouldn't
sitting.
often think that Brett would pair well with a lot of hops.
Exactly.
But Lost Abbey proved that it can
and that's
be
what
done.
I liked about it, that it had the funky Brettness, but the hops also paired well with it. I also very much enjoyed the Shawnee Craft. And Stone, I mean, Stone, you drink a Stone beer, you know it's going to be good. You drink a Victor beer, you know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Or Sierra Nevada. It's classic.
Yeah, but I'm excited about the Moving Parts series. Now that I've had this first one, I'm excited to see what the next ones in the series bring.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I think for me it's probably the Stone also. It was kind of like you said, it's everything you want in an IPA, more or less. Mm-hmm. It's very hop forward, but it cleans up after itself. Not to we have to represent
stealing my phrase.
Hashtag cleans up after itself.
Cleans up after itself.
If you're going to say
Shawnee
something
Craft.
cleans after, yeah, I was going to say you had to say that about the Shawnee Craft.
By the way, when I was in Florida, I went to Cycle Brewing, which Justin had recommended when we had met them last month or so ago, and one of their beers was #YOLO.
Oh God.
Oh man, what was the
YOLO
one,
swag money?
No, the one I did in a news story like a year ago.
Hashtag mashtag.
Hashtag mashtag.
Hashtag.
We still got to find that. That was a British beer. We're probably not going to find it.
Oh, and by the way, Snow is not available in the U.S.
Oh.
How does it sell 75 million barrels then?
Because there's
China's really big.
because
Right?
there's a billion
lot of people
in
there.
China.
And that's the only beer they drink. So you guys, what was your favorite beer?
I'm gonna have to go with a Shawnee. Honestly, even though I'm a hop grower, I love the sour beers. And even though that's not marketed as a sour, it's definitely a sour.
It has that tart.
But it's so balanced that it was just super yummy.
I think that one was comparable to the Lost Abbey. I think they had similar characteristics.
Yeah, they were similar, but
Yeah.
I don't know the balance. I don't know. It was so smooth, and I loved it. So that was my choice.
I have to go with the Shawnee as well. I mean,
Really?
it's
Wow.
organic Pennsylvania beer. It's awesome, and that's
I wasn't
OPB.
even thinking of the organic when I chose that.
Yeah, you know me.
Yeah, you know.
You can't not do it.
Wow.
Aw, our friends at Shawnee will be so excited.
They will. Yeah.
So we had 3 California beers and 2 Pennsylvania beers.
Very nice.
Screw you, Midwest.
Wow.
Wow. Dan, I think you're cut off.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I had a fun time tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
This is awesome.
definitely.
I want to record here all the time.
I know, right?
Yeah.
This should
Can
be
we
our
just
studio.
rent your barn?
Yeah. Bring the brewers out to us.
Yeah, there you go. That's not a bad
Hops that
idea.
you should be using.
Come back at harvest time. The table will be set up, and you
Yep.
just have to separate hops from leaves for.
We'll
about
even get
15
you
hours.
drunk. We promise.
Okay, well that's
It is,
good.
it
We'll
is a lot
feed you.
easier
We'll
when you're
feed you
drinking.
too.
Ooh.
All right, this is sounding more and more appealing.
I know.
We grow veggies too. So
Yeah, that's true.
Might
Yeah.
have to make that happen. Oh, man. So now we have our favorite sound. I'm very sad about this, but that brings us to the end of another episode of Beer Busters podcast. And it was Stephen King himself who said, "A man who lies about beer makes enemies." I've made a lot of enemies throughout my time. Justin and Kaelin, we would like to thank you again so much for having us out here.
thank you so much for coming.
Oh, it was a blast. Well,
Awesome.
yes.
I feel so chill.
I don't want this to end, but it has to. As always, my friends, I am Dan Baker, joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and our from entertainer.
Wayne Baker.
Until next time, my friends, we bid you adieu.
Hops, hops, hops.